This is Driving Solutions, exclusively on CBTNews.com.
Hey everyone, Jim Fitzpatrick. Thanks so much for joining me on another edition of Driving Solutions right here at CBTNews.com. Navigating the sales process and addressing affordability challenges are ongoing hurdles for most dealers, but there's solutions out there. Joining us now to discuss how AutoFi is tackling these issues and what they're going to be showcasing at the upcoming NADA show is Mr. Joe St. John, the Chief Customer Officer at AutoFi and one of the nicest guys out there in retail automotive. So thank you so much, Joe, for joining us on the show. Very much appreciate it. We always get great views whenever you're on. Your enthusiasm about our industry is contagious. So hope you had a nice holiday. Happy New Year to you, and thank you for joining me. So
thank you, Jim. I'm always so excited to be on here. It feels really surreal to me. I've watched this show for a long time, and every time I'm on, it's like I'm on. I have my mug. I'm on.
You
CBT
got your mug.
News.
I love it.
I'm very fired up. So, and thank you for the kind words. I really appreciate that. Man.
Well, I mean it. You're one of the good guys out there. So we appreciate all that you do. I was going to say, you were like the godfather of digital marketing when it first came out, and you were beating that drum. And I know that you teach at the NADA Academy on the topic. The promise of digital retailing, efficiency, customer experience. Has it been realized? If not, why?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. So, if you think back to what the promises of digital retailing was, and I was on stage at the convention in like 2019 talking about how I think a lot of people with digital retail got the concept wrong. Like they were like, oh, everybody's supposed to buy a car online. And that's never what it was really about. What it was really about was, even back then, 83% of customers said that they wanted to be able to accomplish one or more of the steps to the sale online so that when they got to the store, they could save time. And I think the real promise of digital retail was enabling a customer to have a better experience in purchasing the vehicle holistically. Mm-hmm. And if you look back at, 2018, that time period, it took a little over 3 hours for a customer to buy a car. And, if you look at the most recent NADA report, basically 91% of dealers have some form of digital retail turned on their website, and it still takes us about 3 hours for a customer to buy a car.
That's crazy.
And so for me, I think about that, like in 2016, the average salesperson sold about 9 units, and it's the exact same today. The average salesperson is still selling the exact same number of cars.
Right.
And I think that you asked the real question, which is why not? And I think that there's still this mighty disconnect between like what happens on the showroom and what happens outside of the showroom. If you're a salesperson in a dealership today and you come to the desk with an internet customer and you're my manager, Jim, and I'm like, all right, hey, I got an internet customer. I need your help. Work up a payment. The only advice you're really going to get as a salesperson is get them in, right? Because we're still in this habit of not thinking of that as a buyer of a car, thinking of that as a lead or thinking of that as, a number. And the reality is that's the most important buyer, because consumers today don't go to 5 dealerships before they make a purchase like they did when I started selling cars in 1998. They go to 1, maybe 2. And so our ability to influence that dealer or that customer and really connect those experiences between what happens on the website and online and what happens on our showroom, mm-hmm. I think has always been the missing piece.
Yeah, I would agree. I know AutoFi's expansion into the showroom has helped dealers address inefficiencies in the negotiation process. What challenges still persist? You mentioned some of them in these areas, and how is AutoFi solving for it?
Yeah, Jim, I went out for like 8 weeks, and I secret bossed. I literally would show up at dealerships. I would get like the golf shirt with a logo on it, and they would tell the salespeople I was a new salesperson, and I would go start taking ups and working car deals. And what's wild to me is there's so many things are the same, right? Like car deals happen in waves. There's these like 4 hours, it's completely dead, nothing's happening. And the next thing you know, it's like boiler room. Like everybody's got a car deal.
Totally.
It's crazy town. And
that's right.
In those moments when there's 2 managers on the desk, one of them's out bidding a trade. The first deal in line is like always like a 500 score with $1,000 cash. We're trying to figure out what car to land them on. The second deal, we're switching to a lease because we're on way too much car and the payment's way out of whack. If you're third in line and you just got back from a test drive and your customer's like super excited and licking the paint off the car, and you're number 3 in line I ask roomfuls of dealers and sales managers, if you're number 3, how long does it typically take you to get a pencil? And the average answer I get is 15 minutes. That's crazy. Because when's the customer's buying temperature the highest? It's the moment
and by the way, the
back.
customer could sit at your desk in the showroom and get a pencil quicker, right?
Jim, if you're sitting anywhere for 15 minutes with no idea what's going on, what does it make you want to do?
The work, get out of there. Just you're anxious.
So we are psychologically pre-programming customers to feel like leaving before we ever ask them to say yes to numbers.
That's right.
And you watch this, and when you're in it all the time, right? Like when you're selling cars all the time, you don't really see it because it's just a fight. Like we're in it. When you're kind of like, if you went back and sold cars, like and came and sat down, you would see this like body language shift of the customers.
That's right.
They slowly slide down in their chair. They get their phone out and they're just doing this now, and they've completely detached.
And by the way, what they might be doing on their phone is a little bit of showrooming, where they're like, well, since I'm in the mode of buying a car, let me see what XYZ Chevrolet's got on their plate.
100%. And so at AutoFi, our whole hypothesis is, why aren't we using the technology that transforms your website to transform the showroom experience, so that I can get numbers in front of a customer the moment they get back from a test drive?
Right.
If I can put numbers in front of a customer the moment they get back from a test drive, and in doing that, I can involve the customer in a way that it doesn't feel like we're arm wrestling. It feels like we're working on their deal together.
That's right.
And they have agency and autonomy. I went to F&I training back in like 2004. The trainer was unbelievable. But the one thing he said that stuck out to me was, if I want somebody to say yes to an idea, it has to be their idea.
Yeah.
It can't be my idea because they're going to fight me on it.
Sure.
Well, why aren't we using technology to allow it to feel like it's the customer's idea? And if we can get numbers in front of them the moment we get back from a test drive, we can make it feel like it's their idea and they have agency in it. What we're seeing is closing rates that are astronomical, and front end and back end grosses that are significantly and disproportionately higher than using a sheet of paper to lay down numbers in front of a customer and ask whether or not they agree to those numbers.
That's right. That's right. It really is amazing. So dealer managers have a lot on their plates, as you know. How is AutoFi helping them to be more efficient in their jobs? This is something that I hear so much about from managers, is that it takes a little bit of time to get that first pencil, because oftentimes that sales manager, in some cases, is even out appraising the used car if they're the new car desk manager, or they're handling something on advertising issue, or they're handling a heat case in service, or they're ordering vehicles, or they're doing turn down on vehicles, whatever the case might be, or maybe they're even 3 deep on other deals that they're working. So, you just mentioned it, 3 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon in a high volume dealership. That desk manager is like an octopus, or at least wants to be, where he's got so many different things going on, but they can do just so much at one particular time. And the dealer doesn't want that manager screwing up. I mean, it's got to be, what did I put on that car? How much did I pencil that? What did I quoted him, how much on the rate? It's got to be exactly to the point. Otherwise, that customer is going to call you out and go, no. You quoted me 6%. You didn't quote me 8, 9%, when maybe we should have. So they've got a lot going on. I know myself. I spent 9 years as a desk manager in my career, and it's crazy. It really is. So talk to me. What have you got to help dealers in this area?
I have so much empathy for managers today, because the amount that's on their plate just keeps growing.
Yeah.
Things that when I was a desk manager, I never had to think about, desk managers today have to think about, right? In 2005, 2006, finance submitted 100% of the car deals.
Yep.
At 95% of dealerships now, the sales managers at the desk are submitting and rehashing and working those car deals.
It's unbelievable. Right.
Yeah, and we moved it from back there because the finance office took too long. So we brought them out and put it, and now the desk has become this bottleneck. And you see in the middle of that, I did a webinar with a guy named Austin from Tutton Chrysler Dodge Jeep outside of Atlanta.
Yeah, Drew Tutton, great guy, great dealer.
Great guy. And so Austin, his GSM said before they had AutoFi, he was the only person that would submit car deals. The other sales managers weren't allowed, because in the olden days when I was a finance manager, we had a book. I don't know if you remember, like a big binder.
Of course, no question about it.
And you would have like the printed out lender guidelines, and you'd have the rate sheet, and nobody does that anymore.
And by the way, you had to make sure the rate sheet was up to date, because if you had an old rate sheet in there, those were yesterday's rates.
You had I had my prime lenders, I had my subprime lenders, I had my deep subprime lenders. now you'll see like deep subprime lenders will jump up into the prime category and have better rates than the other prime. And so they're moving around all the time and people aren't adjusting. And what our data showed, one of the big misses at the desk that is sucking up managers' time is trying to decide what lenders am I going to send it to. I play a game at the academy where I put a customer profile on the board. So, vehicle they're buying, LTV, payment to income, credit score. I'll give them 3 credit scores across multi-bureaus, everything. It's okay. Here's the top 15 lenders in America. Tell me the top 3 you would submit it to.
Right.
And every single time, everybody guesses different lenders. And I go, is there a right answer? Well, yeah. If I shotgunned all of them, I'd have a best approval and a worst approval. So could we, if we analyzed millions of approvals and looked at all those callbacks, could I better assess what lenders have the highest probability of approving this customer on this vehicle with the lowest rate and the biggest backends? Could I estimate that better than a manager just guessing? And we said, yeah. And what's crazy is we're doing it. We are, through AutoFi smart lender routing, we are literally going to less lenders getting more approvals that are better for the customer and better for the dealer, and protecting back-end F&I gross, all by automating something that slows a manager down in the middle of the game to go, okay, hey, Austin, come here and look at this one. Who should I submit this one to?
Yeah.
And so by finding areas that you can use data to actually get to a better optimized outcome, we're alleviating some of the work so that the 20% of the time you need a manager to look at it, let's let them look at it. But there's 80% of car deals that can go right down the pipe with, simple formula behind it to analyze and decide which ones it's going to go to. And we're seeing real results at dealers and managers who resisted up front, who then afterwards like, oh man, I'm so glad I have this because I'm getting customers to close with 2 points of rate markup and they're choosing the bank and it's not a fight anymore. And that's, I think, something that's really powerful. And I can't wait for dealers to come see what we're doing at the convention.
Sure. Hey, we've seen a new generation of salespeople, specifically Gen Z, growing in numbers in the workforce. What adjustments do dealers need to make to attract and maximize the success of this new generation that we see?
Jim Fitzpatrick, I'm going to say something a little controversial here. I'm never one to.
I was going to say, oh boy, there's a first for Joe St. John.
Here's the thing. I truly believe, in like my heart of hearts, that the Gen Z generation of salespeople coming up right now have more untapped talent than any generation that came before them in selling. I have been overwhelmed in what I've seen this generation be able to do on showrooms. And I think what's happening is, as an industry, we are struggling to unlock that talent. And what I mean by that, I'll give you a good example. A friend of mine's group of dealerships out in California. I spent weeks there selling cars. I took a picture. Their sales team looks like babies. Like they look like teenagers. In fact, one of them, he had braces, and after we hit an all-time record in August, I was like, hey, let's all go to Azul Tequila. I'll get us chips and guac and buy everybody beers. Let's go celebrate. And he was like, sorry, I can't drink. I'm not 21 yet. And I was like, oh my God, like you guys really are babies.
Wow.
I took a picture of their board at the end of August because I didn't think people would believe it if I showed them the picture of the salespeople. 19 units, 20 units, 28 units, 26 units, 19 units, 20, like every one of them is over 20. And that kid that had braces on, no assistants, not like he's a sales manager with like 5 salespeople, but he calls himself a salesperson. He's doing 50 cars a month. The kid did 42 cars in May this year.
Wow, that's awesome.
I never did 42 cars when I was selling cars, and I thought it was the greatest that had ever lived.
Me either.
That kid's 20 years old. And to me, I see there is when they use a technology solution like AutoFi, when they use AutoFi to check out a customer, instead of having to argue with a sheet of paper with Sharpies and a 4-square, when they go, okay, let's build your deal together with 10% down at 60 months or at a 785 payment. Is that what you would like to do, Jim? And you go, well, put $5,000 down. Okay, go to 60. When you give them technology that is native and intelligent and feels like everything else in their life, you take the sting out of the worst part of getting good at selling, which is negotiating.
Yeah.
And you allow them to focus on getting customers to fall in love with the vehicle, fall in love with them, fall in love with the dealership. And the propensity to say yes just goes up. And so I think that as more and more dealers adopt digital checkout solutions like AutoFi, digital penciling, closing, selling solutions on their showroom, what you will see is that Gen Z group of salespeople really blossom into the most overwhelming talent that we've ever seen. And let's just be clear for a moment. I teach at the NADA Academy. I have a master's degree in accounting. I know I look like an accountant, Jim. One of the only levers you can pull in the variable ops business to drive net profitability is units per salesperson. If you do 170 cars a month and you're a pre-COVID numbers dealership in front and back end grosses, and you go from basically 10 to 18 units per month, that's 500 grand a year in net. Like, that's the lever, and nobody's focusing on salesperson efficiency. And right. I think it's the missed metric that can drive this industry forward.
Sure. It's funny you should say NADA. I've got Mike Stanton in the waiting room. He's ready to come on here in a second. So in our last few minutes here together, I know AutoFi will have a big presence out at NADA. You guys always knock the cover off the ball. How can dealers connect with you out there and the AutoFi team?
Yeah, come by our booth. I'm going to be at the booth. Kerry Wise is going to be at the booth. Zach Jones is going to be at the booth. We have a depth of talent at AutoFi that is unbelievable. And that's not me talking. I'm talking about Kerry Wise. She's one of the greatest marketing minds in automotive.
Oh, no question.
For the past century, right?
Yeah.
You got Zach Jones, who is not only a retail person, but has been on the forefront of technology in this industry for over 2 decades.
Yeah.
And I think that if dealers want to come see us, we will be at booth 4219.
Okay.
That is booth 4219. Come see us at NADA. Also, Kerry and I are doing a presentation. So if you want to come see our presentation, we will be presenting at, I can't remember what time, but come see us, come by our booth, and I'm fired up about it.
And you're always fired up about everything that you talk about. I love your content. It's fantastic. It's spot on because you're in the trenches doing it with dealers all the time, so you know exactly what's happening out there. This is not pie in the sky stuff. So dealers, put these guys on your short list if you're going out to NADA, which I hope you are, and catch up with Joe St. John because you're going to get more of this from him. He knows exactly what it takes to run a highly successful dealership and showroom. That's where this is going to be very, very important in 2025. So to run an efficient showroom that adds to your profitability. So Joe St. John, Chief Customer Officer at AutoFi, a company that you've heard a lot about. They're making big waves. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Jim. I appreciate you, man.
Thanks.
Thanks for watching Driving Solutions, exclusively on CBTNews.com.